Hello and welcome to Unboxed, the podcast that dives deep into the world of custom packaging and innovative brand experiences. In each episode, we'll be exploring the latest trends, innovations, and best practices in the design and packing industry, and then taking a look at how they can help businesses like yours to create memorable and impactful brand experiences. I'm your host, Sam Johnston. Let's get started. As always, I'm your host, Sam Johnston, and in this episode, we'll be talking to Pedja, who is a brand building consultant, focuses on the CPG brand side of things, has a ton of experience in product development and new product launches, lots of different types of packaging, bottles, boxes, bags, etc. We're super excited to have him on the show. So first off, thanks so much for giving the listeners some time today.
Thank you for having me here, Sam. It's a pleasure to be here.
Absolutely. And as always, we have 5 questions that we're going to run through. So if you're listening to this and you want to be able to jump to one of those, you can do that. The first question will be for our guest, what inspired them to get into the industry? The second one is, how does custom packaging contribute to creating some of these unique brand experiences that we're looking for? The third one then is any success stories that they may have seen or case studies of businesses that have transformed themselves through branding, packaging, and designing. The fourth one is any of the challenges or roadblocks that listeners are likely to face ahead if they're moving forward into packaging and how they can get ahead of those. The fifth one will then be getting out the crystal ball, looking at the future and seeing what is the future of packaging and product and how's that evolving over the next 5 to 10 years, and we'll get some insights there. So let me come all the way back up to the front here and ask our guest, what inspired you to get into the industry that you're in, and how did you get your start in the field?
Well, it's a great question. So I've started my career in one of the biggest CPGs in the world, which is Philip Morris International. I worked on brands like Marlboro, L&M, and some local ones. I'm Serbian Canadian, so I grew up in Serbia and started my career over there. And from the very beginning, I got into a brand and on the brand role because I was in love with the packaging since I was very little. I am part of the generation that collected numerous things. So I was collecting beer caps and beer corks. I was collecting cigarette packages, and I still have a collection of some 1,000 packages from late 90s, early 2000s. Wow. And when I started my career after graduating in business, after a few years in finance, it was just kind of logical move for me to get to branding. So I want to say the colors of the packaging are the main reason that I moved there, because I like shiny things.
Nice. That's awesome. And how did you're doing the consultation at the moment? How did you take that step and that leap over? It sounds like you made a movement there at some point.
Oh yeah. Well, I think I'm a firm believer as a brand, in a brand as a concept to build the business. Being a glocal storyteller, glocal is not a wrong word. It's one word that is actually global and local. It's actually the one that translates the universal or global values into the locally relevant stories and locally relevant campaigns and slogans. I always wanted to be in a spearhead of the business and to push it forward. And that's what the brand is in every solid company, I want to say. And that's how I moved to brand. And then packaging is just an inevitable part of it. Throughout the career that spans from local, regional to global roles and from in the different industries, I was lucky and fortunate enough to work on the packaging projects across cigarettes, confectionery, cookies, chocolates, and then beverage, not only beer, but also spirits and some others. And I think that packaging, and hence the reason I'm speaking to you today, I'm a big believer that packaging plays a much, much bigger role than just the functional role. Functional is very important. As shoppers, as consumers, we need to get our product safe. not contaminated by any bacteria or any sorts of dirt. So that's the primary role of packaging, of course. But then it's a huge vehicle and a strong, powerful vehicle for brand communication. And I realized that at the very beginning of my career. And as said, I was very lucky um, to work on some big projects. Now, your question, how the custom packaging and product brand experiences contribute to creating a loyal customer base. I want to say huge in the cases when the product packaging innovation creates a new habit and a new consumption occasion. So I have a brilliant example, which unfortunately is not mine to work on, but in the Southeast Europe, a region that I come from, we have a very popular brand in the beverage space. It's called Cedevita, and it's basically a powder that you put in the water and drink it at home. And it takes a huge portion of the market share into a beverage in the beverage space. They were working to unlock the outside of home consumption, and they discovered, together with the supplier and the producer of the packaging, a great solution for Cedevita on the go. It's basically a plastic bottle that has in the cap a dose of powder that when you open it up, the powder goes down, you just shake it, and
Wow.
you have the drink on the go. And I mean, it created a revolution in the on the go and on consumption occasions. If you want to go travel, you can have it fresh. You don't drink just water. You're drinking a tasteful, vitamin enhanced drink. So to answer your question, great packaging contributes to greatly to a loyal consumers, but there has to be that big breakthrough. I
Yeah,
can give a ton of other examples where it didn't work that well.
makes a lot of sense. And is there any other case studies? I know that that's a fantastic. I actually hadn't heard of that one. And the idea of like a screw cap that then has a drop capability in it. I think that's genius. There's so many different use cases for that are flying through my head whilst we're talking about it. Is there any other case studies or any other stories that you've seen where businesses have transformed their brand, even if not necessarily just through the sort of the architecture of the packaging, but even just from brand exercises? Have you seen anything good happening on that front?
100%. I was leading a project on Tuborg while I was in a global role in Carlsberg. And what we realized back then is that Heineken is outperforming us because they have a great secondary packaging, that it's actually nudging shoppers to pick up their 4 cases, 6 cases, 8 cases packs over ours. So I was diving deep into what is it and how does the brand distinctive assets, the visual pieces and parts of the brand are actually embedded into the design of the packaging that triggers that instant decision, impulse decision to purchase brand A over brand B. And what we realized is at the time, Heineken was playing extremely well with their star, which is uh, uh, in the essence of their brand and of their visual identity.
Yep.
And they were putting big stars in a very creative ways on their secondary packagings, regardless whether we talk about cans or bottles. And it worked for them. So we worked to develop something similar for Tuborg that will be within the Tuborg's brand architecture that will help a brand grow. And we were quite successful with the designs that we provided. So
Fascinating.
100% like brand architecture and design plays a huge role in the packaging and in favor of packaging to grow sales and grow loyalty.
Yeah, absolutely. We've seen that across industries as well. Some of the other guests that we've had. I've talked about some of that similar, where you're trying to figure out exactly what has gone wrong here, or why competitors are taking more ground. And when you actually look into it, it's just something fairly simple that needed a bit of concentration that was missed. And someone like yourself can jump in and provide value and support on that. And for
Uh,
some of our listeners here, Pedja, there's a mix. There's people who are startup entrepreneurs who have a product, they're trying to take it to market, or they're thinking about it, haven't quite launched it yet, and are going through the process. There's other people that are in medium organizations that are in the flows of this. They have a kind of repeating schedule, and they're interested to get new opinions and new takes to see how they can be more agile in the market. And lastly, there's people that are in larger organizations that, again, are looking for sort of smaller, more agile people who have new ideas that the bigger entities maybe aren't thinking about. With all of that in mind, of the listeners, what are some of the biggest challenges or roadblocks that people are going to face when it comes to packaging and branding, and how can they overcome them ahead of schedule?
that's such a great question, Sam. Um, I want to say it comes back to cost and logistics. Uh, and the advice would be the following. One, know your audience and be mindful of your stage of the business. So if you're a startup and you're launching a protein bar, make sure to know whom do you market. And with that said, don't fall in love with 10 flavors. Don't fall in love with two flavors. Make sure you pick one flavor that is going to be so good that it's going to get picked from the shelf, from the online shop, or whatever. So then if you're developing further and you want to launch a 3-pack, a 5-pack of protein bar, because that's the example that we took, or if you want to launch a bigger packaging or a double bar, if it's 30 grams, you want to launch a 60-gram pack or whatever. Again, make sure whom you're marketing and who's your audience. So that would be the advice for the startup. The
Yeah.
advice for the medium size CPGs is a little different. They're seeing different challenges, and I can share a very successful case study that we have with Jaffa Cakes that I was leading at the time. It's been a while now. It's
I'm
such
a
a
I'm a
great.
I'm a big fan of Jaffa Cakes, by the way, just personally, coming from the UK
Okay,
originally. Yeah,
there we
not
go.
many people know about them in the US, but in the UK, it's part of the law of the country. It's a
Yes.
big thing.
And I will tell you, not sure if you know this, many Brits and many of my English friends are not aware of it. The Jaffa Cakes in Southeast Europe is actually a Serbian brand, not a UK brand, because the
Okay.
McVitie's lost the license due to a bad deal that they signed back in the 70s when it was Yugoslavia still. So it's a big love brand in the former Yugoslavia and in overall
Wow.
in Southeast Europe. And I was heading the brand for 2 years back in the days, and we had a big challenge of older consumer because the war simply put a ban on the advertising, not the formal one, but like it wasn't popular to market in between the region where the conflict was,
Yeah.
and we had to do something about it. So apart from the fact that we created a great campaign and that we redefined the brand positioning and recreated the brand strategy and pushed the brand out, rejuvenated the consumer base. Big part of it was packaging. Now, it wasn't the packaging in a traditional sense, and what would first come to our mind when we talk about Jaffa Cakes, for those who don't know, is packed in 150 grams box, where we used to have 13 cookies. It's a beautiful, delicious cookie with a soft biscuit jelly filling and dark chocolate over the top. And it has a bigger packaging, like a family packaging of double, so 300 grams. As trade marketers and customer marketers, as well as retailers, know well, secondary positioning in the stores is of extreme importance for the impulse purchases. And one of the key rules in marketing is when you are launching a big campaign and when you're spending big money on your advertising, you have to own a part of that secondary space where you're not competing only against your direct competitors, but also against other brands that want the space in the store. And we were able to negotiate a good portion of the secondary positions with our retailer partners or with our distributors in the regional markets where we worked. But one of the key challenges for us was how do we get it easy for the sales reps to put it out there? So a colleague of mine, dear colleague of mine, who's a brilliant mind, came up with a secondary packaging that put 3 big boxes of Jaffa into one big box, which was serving as a stand on the secondary positioning. So the sales rep would get a big box, a meter by two widths of the cakes, like the tertiary packaging. So 3 tertiary boxes in there, would go into store, open that box up, put the top at the bottom as a stand, and place the boxes on the top of it. And it was such a brilliant solution that it's one of the key reasons, apart from a great campaign and a great brand strategy, that resulted with 30% of increase in sales.
Wow.
in compared quarter by quarter. So I want to say that is a great when for the medium, to answer your question, Sam, for the medium-sized companies, they have to think out of the box and they have to connect the dots between the brand, the packaging and the product itself, and the retail, and how does that all come together in one synchronicity to serve the business as a whole.
That's amazing. I'm really hungry now. We've been talking about Jaffa cakes, and if you're listening to this in the US, you don't know what they are, you have to Google them. Maybe we'll put a link in the show notes, but you can find them in some places. I found them in World Market and in some of those sort of international sections. And there's a debate, right, between is it a cookie, a biscuit, or is it a cake? There's that ongoing argument, which is also a really fun marketing play that's been had.
I'll have to send you a box of Serbian to compare.
Oh, wow. Okay. That sounds good. Well, outside of just me thinking about Jaffa cakes now, let's take our lens to the future here. There's a lot of stuff going on, sort of macro, sort of globally, economically, logistically, manufacturing. There's these big macro things that are going on, but there's also micro things. There's things on a local level that are changing, that are moving, whether that's behaviors in the consumer, whether that's through local economic stuff happening. With all of that in mind, what are some things that you see as the future of packaging and product over the next 5 to 10 years? What are those things that you're seeing that may happen? And what could our listeners and businesses be doing today to stay ahead of the curve?
So again, a 3-layer thinking here, because the startup, the medium size, and the startup and the small business, medium-sized business, and the big businesses have different resources, different appetites, different market views. For the startups, don't think about be cost conscious, but don't look into traditional lanes of outsourcing it somewhere too far. I would say for the medium businesses, if they already went that path, I would say look for the reliable, cost-effective, not necessarily cheaper solution in your local area. And the big ones, they don't need an advice from me.
Yeah.
But I think that we're looking into a future where local becomes more relevant. Many Western companies, either on our continent here in North America, because I'm in Canada, but also from Western Europe as well, where we were all looking into China as a global factory of cheap everything. I think if those times are not well past, we're at the end of those times. So finding a reliable partner and working with them to provide an innovative solutions that will benefit your brand and your product, that will create new consumption occasions, such as the one that we mentioned for Cedevita. And I will share a packaging with you to show you how it looks, so you can share it as in the links of the episode. But the small and medium brands will need those type of solutions. Again, those are not easy to develop. And I want to say, in order to develop those, you need to partner up with your packaging suppliers, because you cannot expect people to have solutions ready for you. But if they're experts and you know what you want, they can be able to produce something for you and create a long-term win-win situation for both. So I guess the key answer to your question, what are the biggest challenges, is, I think, looking for the cost cutting is, I think, a big roadblock in our business minds. I think becoming cost effective and looking into our own yards and finding solutions at home rather than going abroad for such much cheaper solution is the answer. And that's the trend that is going to be very important in the near future, even next 10 years.
Absolutely. That's some really good advice there. And within that scope, what part do you have to play, Pedja? So if somebody's like, that sounds amazing, how would I engage with you? And where do you fit into that offering?
Well, thank you for that question, Sam. So I'm basically a CPG guy. I'm a local storyteller, as I said, translating your global, your universal values into locally relevant stories. Now, that doesn't mean that if a brand is launched in Arkansas, it wants to go to British Columbia. It can be the next state, or it can be the bigger market within the states. So, it could be a different language that you use, even though it's English both ways, but the different wording, different semantics that you want to use when you're campaigning into a different market. I was lucky enough to learn business at big scale, so I help brands grow, and my knowledge doesn't stop with the storytelling, and my help doesn't stop with the storytelling. I help with different solutions in terms of like the process setup, in terms of like the strategy redefinition, setting up the brand positioning, but then creating a poetry out of it, or defining the touch points, defining the messaging, building a prowess, as I call it, like the experiences, which are not just offline but also online. And then working on the persuasion side, or how do you sell, how do you embed your brand language into sales, and then also with people, how do you put your stakeholders on board. So my services as an advisor cover brand growth, which is very, very wide term, and I'm happy to immerse myself in different conversations around problems within CPG, be it with packaging, be it with the product itself, with the consumer, with the campaigns, with the pricing, distribution. So, yeah.
That's great. And what would be the best way for someone to reach out to you?
So the best way to reach out for me is my LinkedIn profile. I use LinkedIn as my sales and marketing channel. So it's Pedja Radenović. I can send you the link, and you can put it in.
Put it in the show notes.
In the show notes, and I'm basically putting a lot of effort to tell my story and help other brands tell their stories on LinkedIn as well.
Fantastic. Yeah, well, make sure that's in the show notes there. So if you're interested and you want to follow along on Pedja's journey in general, or if you want to jump in and get some insights from him, there'll be a link for you to go ahead and do that. And that is it for this episode of Unboxed. So thank you so much to our guest here for giving us these insights and sharing all the expertise with us. It's been super valuable. And if you've enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe, like, leave a comment, all the good stuff. It means a lot to us, but also the algorithm robot overlords that control things. It'll help to share the knowledge out into the wild. And if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, or if you'd like to be a guest on a future episode, feel free to shoot us an email at hello@merchantboxes.com. And until next time, keep thinking outside the box and creating unforgettable brand experiences. Bye. Thank you for listening to today's episode. It was sponsored by Merchant Boxes. Merchant Boxes provide custom packaging to large businesses and small creators that customers love. If you're looking for award-winning custom package designs that make your business and products stand out from the competition, click the link in the show notes to find out more.